How do? My name is Andrew Hancock and I am a VMware technical architect from Yorkshire in the United Kingdom. I have worked with VMware since their birth in 1998. So that's been a quarter of a century now. I've been working with the VMware product catalogue. Some of my close friends say if you cut Andy in half, it reads VMware like a stick of rock from Blackpool Pleasure Beach. I have now written over 130 articles and recorded over 30 hours of VMware vSphere 7 and 8 videos for Experts Exchange, and received 40 Expert Exchange awards over the last 11 years working with the Expert Exchange community. I am currently the overall #1 point earner in the Hall of Fame. I am honoured to have been accepted into the VMware vExpert program since 2011, and I'm currently a VMware vExpert Pro for the last 4 years. And welcome back to another episode of Hancock's VMware Half Hour. This actually might take us just short of 30 minutes, basically, to get to the conclusion of this particular video that I'm going to do for you. And this is actually based on a blog article that I wrote on my blog about Intel Optane SSD demo units that I received as part of the vExpert program from Intel. And again, a little plug. My thanks to Simon Todd, Mr. vSAN, and Matt Mancini of VMware vExplorer for sorting that out and arranging that. Thanks very much, guys. But I received 10 U2 Intel Optane SSD DCP 4800X series 375 gig SSD U2 drives that are currently inserted into the Dell PowerEdge servers here that we will be using. I will be working with you. I will be showing you how we build a vSAN, VMware vSAN data store using these devices. And I've already touched on previously the fact that one of the requirements is that we have 10 gigabit networking. So all these servers have now been upgraded to 10 gigabit networking using a network interface card that I tested, which I've shown you in a previous video and a previous blog. And again, my thanks to Andy Nash. This video is just turning really into thank you very much, everybody, for giving me free stuff. Although I did actually send Andy some melt and be honey. Okay, so received 10 demo units, put them in a Windows platform using a PCIe adapter, which are readily available on that well-known site that sells books. Tested them all. They all worked fine. I thought, okay, fair enough. Bang them all in the servers, power them all on. What happens? 2 of them initially didn't actually work. Or I'll explain what actually basically threw me. Now, it's easier to sort of kind of show this really in connected to the host client directly to the server. So ESXi 007 has 2 of these devices inserted. So you can see here on device 6, Intel Corporation NVMe Data Center SSD Optane 15mm, and there's another one there. Okay, so if I actually basically just switch to vCenter server view, which you can look through the PCI devices and you can look through the same device. But I'm actually going to go to data stores. No, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to go to configure and I'm going to go to storage devices. If I go to storage devices, you can see that I've already got one disk here, local NVMe disk. There's the serial number. There's the size, 350 gig, and I've created a data center already called Intel-Optane. If, however, I actually want to create another data center on that server, and I could do this through the host client, or I could do this on vCenter server. But as I've said before, if the devices are added to vCenter server, then do your management through vCenter server. So if I click storage, new data store, VMFS, of course, remember that these are local disks that are actually basically in ESXi 007. No item is found to create a data store on it. Now, this had me a little puzzled as to why I could see the PCI device. So the device is definitely recognized here. It's definitely in the server. because you can actually basically see here that it's actually based. So the device is not broken, but it doesn't actually display as a storage device here. And if I actually basically go to create a data store, then there is no media or storage device for the correct data store. Now, this had me puzzled because I said 8 of the devices that I'd received, I just put them in Windows box, just went to the device, formatted the device, all worked in Windows, was all seen in Windows, didn't think more of it, thought all the devices are obviously working properly, nothing wrong with them, put them all in ESXi, and I tested in both 7 and 8, although this lab here is 7, but I tested them in an 8 as well, exactly the same. And I wasn't the only vExpert actually that was flummoxed by this. There were a few others as well, but I won't drop any names. I won't embarrass you. So I reached out to Simon Todd, and I spoke to Simon Todd. Now, obviously, he's seen this particular problem many times, and he actually basically came around and said to me, they're not formatted at 4K LBA. And I said, oh, I don't know. Now, 4K LBA sectors is not actually supported in ESXi 7 or ESXi 8. And if a device has got a 4K LBA sector size on it, then it will not be actually recognized as a device. So at that point, I thought, okay, so this is actually worth checking. So this is what I'm actually going to show you. I'm going to show you how we change the sector size of a disk. And this is actually applicable really to any storage disk, SSD, flash drive, etc., that you are going to connect to ESXi. So it's not just specific to Intel Optane. It is going to be any storage device that you use to connect to ESXi. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look for my trusty bunch of USB flash drives on my keyring. It is probably really about time that I converted this lot to Ventoy. If you've not used Ventoy, it's excellent. I'll put a link to it in the article in the video description. If you've not used Ventoy, it allows you to copy all your ISOs to a flash drive and boot them from there, rather than having a key ring of hundreds of flash drives with operating systems and God knows what. So I'm just basically going to lean down here to my server in the rack. And hang on, apologies. Hang on, just let me pause this video and I'll come back to you because I can't get the panel off. Just one moment. Oh, apologies there. And the reason why I couldn't actually basically get the Dell panel off the front bezel was because it was I was actually trying to take it off the wrong server, which is locked. Idiot. Okay, right. So what we're going to do, we're going to shut down and restart ESXi number 7. So I'm going to put it into maintenance mode, and hopefully when we put it into maintenance mode, it's going to automatically move off VMware vCenter server, and it's going to move off Sawtail, which is the DNS server for this lab, onto another host. I should have an iDRAC connection already to my ESXi server. It's obviously expired. One of the things I did earlier in the lab here, because it was absolutely driving me absolutely crazy, was I did think it was about time really to actually ensure that the actual certificates on all the iDRAC connections were issued by a CA. So they're issued by the lab CA here now. Bitdefender was going nonsense, mad. Okay, so let's just log back in. The iDRAC connections timed out. So we'll just log back in. And hopefully things are migrating. I'm just going to take a swig of sparkling water. It's not that well-known soft drink, from Pepsi. I'm actually trying to go cold turkey and reduce the amount of caffeine that I drink. But then again, saying that, I'm just going to go over to a quad espresso here. That's better. Okay, so how are we getting on? Okay, we're logged in. Because when the server's actually gone into maintenance mode, what we're actually going to do, we're going to shut down the server from here. We're going to restart the server. We're going to force boot mode. We're going to select our USB flash drive on the front. Let's go to the quack and get this cough sorted out. It's irritating. Okay, so we're then going to boot the server from the flash drive using an Ubuntu 20 live CD-ROM ISO. We're going to add some NVMe tools to have a little look at the formats on both those Intel Optane drives. But you can do this with any disk, any flash drive, any SSD, any NVMe disk that's been formatted at 4K, or you think's been formatted at 4K. How are we actually basically doing with that? That migration. Okay, migration's been completed. We're in maintenance mode, so I'm going to go back to my iDRAC here, and I'm going to shut down and restart. I always forget that it's F12 to restart and not log in. Okay, so we're going to do an F11 restart. My apologies, I've just actually noticed that the screen brightness, these two screens I'm using here in the lab, I've noticed recently that when the background's white, they're that bright that it actually basically lights me as an object. So I do apologize that you may actually notice that the screen goes black and white. Well, not black and white, but it gets darker. That's the word. It gets darker. What I probably really need to do here really in the lab is to get a much bigger bright light to illuminate me as an object. But believe you me, if you actually store the state of this lab, you'd probably think, where on earth is he going to fit anything else in this lab? Because it is absolutely chocker. Full to the brim of stuff. So I'm going to click F11 for the boot manager, and I'm going to basically select the USB flash drive, and we'll get our Ubuntu started. What I'm probably going to do is I'm just going to bob off. I'm going to drink a little bit more water, and we'll come back when we're... okay. No, I'll stay here. I'm just going to have a drink of water, and I'm going to select disconnected to front USB data traveler 2. That's our Ubuntu USB flash drive. So what I'll do, I'm going to bob off. I'm going to drink a bit of this, and we'll come back when we're at the prompt to actually basically start our live Ubuntu CD session. And I'm back. Okay, so we want to try Ubuntu. I don't want to install Ubuntu on this server because I don't want to erase the current version of ESXi, which is on here. So I'm going to select try Ubuntu. And that's going to boot up. Could have used the server edition. I think it's just all I've got around, or was easiest to find. So I'm going to go show applications, and I'm going to disappear to a terminal. I'm going to max that out. Now, of course, this is obviously a bare metal connection. This is obviously a bare metal server that we've actually booted with an Ubuntu flash drive. So if I do ls PCI, I should be able to see in that list, like what we did before in ESXi. You can actually see there are Ethernet controllers, the Intel Corporation 10G 2P X520 adapters, the one that I was recommending. So the cheapo ones that are still on the HCL for. Okay, rather than scrolling and trying to find it, there we go. Just grep them, and you can see 6 and 7, just like we saw in ESXi, that we've actually got 2 Intel Corporation NVMe data center SSDs brackets Optane. Okay, so what I'm going to now do, I'm going to install. I did notice before that it did actually complain about not being able to have a network interface. Not being able to have a network. It complained. I noticed that there was a connection error, but I do have an IP address, which is good. 192.168.182.125. I'm just going to check that I can actually basically ping the internet, because what I'm going to do. Okay, good. What I'm going to do, I'm going to basically just use sudo apt-get install, and I'm going to install the NVMe CLI utilities. One of the things I do absolutely love about Linux distributions is the fact that it just pulls everything from repos on the internet. It makes debugging and using things so much simpler than reaching for, I was going to say, floppy disks. Who uses a floppy disk anymore? Although, hang on, he says that, who uses a floppy disk anymore? And you can just reach across the lab and find a floppy disk. It just goes to show how much crap, apologies, is actually is in this lab. Okay, so I've installed the NVMe-CLI utilities. I'm sure there are many other utilities that you can use. And one of the things that we can actually check for is that we can do a sudo NVMe list, and it actually basically just confirms again that we have got 2 NVMe devices that are installed. Now, in fact, actually, I just noticed this. Didn't notice it before, but it's just very clearly obvious to me when I've done a sudo NVMe list. And I didn't spot it before when I wrote the article on the blog, but I've just noticed it now. But you can clearly see that this device here, which is NVMe 0M1, the first NVMe device, which is product number, serial number, product number, serial number. You can see there that that device is 512. That's the one currently which is actually in use in ESXi. But you can see that this device here, NVMe 1M1, 4K. That's our problem. ESXi 7, ESXi 8 cannot recognize 4K formatted devices. I was actually going to go through. Well, okay, I'm still going to go and do a little bit longer to sudo NVMe ID-ns. You don't have to remember any of this. I'll put this in the video description. Dev NVMe 1 N1, and I'm just going to grep and look for the word LBA format, if I can. LBA format. And can you see there that at the moment it actually basically says for this device here, NVMe 1M1, the 4K device. This was what I wrote about in my article, in using this longhand here to see what format's actually in use. And you can see that it says 3:0, 0x3, LBA format 3. The data size currently is 4096. We can check the same for device 0, which is currently the data store in ESXi, and you can currently see that the format there, LBA format 0, metadata size 0 bytes, data size 512 bytes, relative performance. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you the command basically to LBA format that to 512. That takes a little while. If you're as old as I am, and you remember the old days of doing low-level formats on MFM and RLL type drives that took forever, and if you've ever made the mistake not to quick format a 2 terabyte disk in NTFS, then you'll know how long it takes. So I'm going to show you quickly how we're going to format, and we're going to use this same command again. We're going to use the sudo mve format again. So I'm going to do sudo mve format -L 0, because we actually basically want to use the 512 bytes format. So we're selecting LBA format 0, so that's what the 0 signifies there. We're going to specify the NVMe device, NVMe 1 and 1. There is no verbose mode. There is no prompt. There is no progress. You hit enter here and it just sits there doing it. If you have the ability to actually basically look at the drive, you'll obviously see it's flashing or there's some activity there. And you just have to sit there and wait until eventually it finishes with a success formatting namespace :1. So hopefully if I've actually basically got the syntax correct, and I'm just going to double check that I am actually doing the right disk, NVMe 0N1, that's the 512 byte one. And we want to do NVMe 1M1, so I'm doing NVMe. Okay, so I'm actually pretty happy that that is the right disk that I'm going to low level format. Remember, if you've got any data on here, it's just basically going to erase it. So I'm going to hit enter. And that's really it. And we just wait. So I'm going to bob off, and I'll speed all that in post. When this is finished, and I can keep talking because I do know that this takes a while. So when this is finished, we'll run the same commands again to actually basically see that we've got 512 bytes sector size. We'll restart the server, we'll remove the flash drive, we'll wait for ESXi 7 to boot back up again, and then we'll log back in, and we'll hopefully be able to create our data store correctly this time, and ESXi will be able to see the device so that we can actually create a data store. Not really very advanced, just a little bit of Ubuntu, just a few commands. Yes, I know it's a little bit of a terminal, and maybe for some people out there, they don't really like going near terminals and doing stuff. But anyway, so I'm going to bob off, and I will be back shortly. Hello, I'm back. Okay, I was sitting here thinking, oh, has this all gone horribly wrong? And the success formatting namespace :1 was not going to come back. It also did actually occur to me as well that Simon Todd, Mr. VSAN, why is it all going black? Simon Todd, Mr. vSAN, did actually suggest to me to use something called Intel Maz Tools, which is a VIB actually that can be installed in ESXi. So you don't need to restart your ESXi server. You can actually format the devices within ESXi. Maybe that's another tool that we'll download another time into ESXi, and I can show you that as well. A connection failed. I don't know. I think that is because that Ubuntu has picked up the devices, the Intel DA2 10 gigabit devices, and they're storage network only. There's no access, there's no internet, there's no DHCP on that LAN or that storage network. So that's what probably is complaining there. Okay, so I will try and keep the waffle down. So if we actually basically go back to our command, our long-winded command, and we now have a little look at the LBA format, then we can see now that the format selected is 512. And if we actually go back to the short, really shorthand and do a sudo nvme list, we can see now that both devices are 512 bytes, 512 bytes. So that's it. I'm done with my Ubuntu server. And I'm going to take the flash drive out, and I'm going to wait for all those horrible things. And that's gone terribly wrong. Let's just find those USB flash drives, because I'll be looking for them much later. I'm going to put the bezel back on the right server this time, and we'll wait for that server to boot up, and it'll probably take a little bit of a while. But anyway, so I'll come back to you when it's all back and connected to vCenter server. We'll exit maintenance mode, and we'll basically bob on and create a brand new Intel Optane 2 data store. Now, of course, I will be trashing these data stores later, because when we start creating a vSAN data store, then we will be removing all the partitions off these data stores. But it's just really to demonstrate that we can put a VMFS partition on a single NVMe U2 Intel Optane disk if we wanted to. But we're not going to use them in that fashion in this lab. We're going to use them to create VMware vSAN as a caching disk and also a capacity disk. Anyway, so I'll speed all this up in post so you don't have to watch an ESXi server booting via iDRAC. So I'll come back shortly. Okay, and we're back. Can you actually see about what I'm saying about the brightness level? Just because I've actually gone to a white screen in VMware vCenter server web client. Okay, so our ESX host, as you saw, has restarted successfully. It's appeared back in vCenter server. So I'm just going to say maintenance mode. You may have noticed actually that there was a host memory status error on ESXi 011. That's actually caused by an ECC error in one of the DIMMs, which I need to look at. That's been there for a while, but I have actually swapped the DIMMs around, and the error still appears on the actual DIMM slot. So I'm wondering whether or not it's the actual DIMM slot within the server that's actually faulty and not the DIMM. Okay, so what I wanted to quickly show you, and we'll do it both on host client for ESXi, and we'll also show you it from vCenter server. So if I now actually select configure and I look at storage devices, can you actually now see that we've got two NVMe disks that are appearing? We've got the original one, which is associated with data store Intel Optane, and we've got another one that says not consumed. And we're going to do exactly the same here. We're going to go to manage. We go to storage devices, and we can see that we've got two devices in here. Simple fix. reformat the media to 512 bytes rather than 4K, and that is the solution. So I shouldn't have any problems now in selecting. I'm just actually going to rename that Intel Optane 1, and I'm now going to go and select storage, new data store, VMFS. There's our device now, which is what we expected, but of course was missing before. I'm going to call that Intel Optane 2, followed by next. If I go back again, you can actually basically see it says it's flash, sector format 512E, next, finish, and there we go. Initially, it does actually basically say status unknown, and that will eventually change to normal. If I just do a quick refresh, it eventually does change to normal. Okay, so there you go. So what's the takeaway from this? Check your sector size. Check your LBA sector size. If your LBA sector size is 4K, it's not going to be detected within ESXi 7 or 8. And like a blundering idiot, you think that you've actually got failed hardware. When you've not got failed hardware, you've just got the wrong format. So for that golden nugget, my thanks definitely goes out to Simon Todd, Mr. vSAN, for just basically giving me that little nudge in the grey matter to say, have you checked the sector size? And again, there is another tool in ESXi that we can install, Intel Mass Tools, which we could have done exactly the same thing. We could have checked the sector size, reformatted the sector size, and then it would have appeared and we could actually create a data store on. So 46 minutes, it says, unedited. We'll speed all that up in post to get that down to 30-ish minutes. But that's all I wanted to cover in this particular video, which actually runs alongside this article that I actually blogged about, which was your demo units being received as part of the vExpert program, not being detected as a data store in ESXi 7 or ESXi 8. But you can apply this to any media that you don't initially see. I think there were a number of people that were sort of kind of questioning, oh, my devices didn't have a problem with. Again, these were demo units that we actually received as part of the Intel program, so we didn't necessarily know how they'd been used previously, and in what operating system, what servers, etc. So thanks very much for watching. This is leading into, we're going to be looking at VMware vSAN, and we're going to be using VMware vSAN using Intel Optane technology. And the next video that I'm going to do is we're going to start having a look at the networking prerequisites that we need before we start doing vSAN, because in vSAN we need another service network, or we need another storage network. We need a vSAN network for the vSAN traffic basically to move across. So we're going to have a little look at setting that up on our 10 gigabit network here in the lab, and I might just switch it up a little bit, and we might start looking at VDS for this. VDS does come included with vSAN licensing. VDS does give us lots more options in terms of load balancing and configuration and throughput controls than standard switches. But 3 hosts probably normally wouldn't do a VDS. We'll see. We'll see whether we do standard switching or we do VDS in the next video, which is all going to lead into starting to put together the bits and pieces to how we create our vSAN network. So once again, thanks so much for watching. Still got a cough. Hopefully when I come back to you in the next video, the cough would have gone. Anyway, so my thanks to you for watching these videos, and I will come back to you with a new one shortly. Okay, goodbye.